can't be here. This is private property. I'm not getting down.
I have every right to be here. This is my house.
Got you now.
All right, let's calm down now.
The morning was calm, the kind of peace you only feel when you've built something with your own hands. The sun hit the white stone walls of my mansion just right. A 100-year-old beauty I'd spent months restoring from the ground up. The air smelled of fresh paint and pine. Even the wind moved slow, gentle. Then the sound of heels on gravel broke the quiet. A woman stood at my gate, sunglasses on, clipboard in hand, acting like she owned the place.
The kind of posture that screams control.
Until you look closer. "Sir, you have 24 hours to pay your HOA dues," she said sharply, "or this property will be demolished." For a second, I thought it was a joke. This land had never belonged to any HOA. But her smirk told me she wasn't joking. She believed every word. I didn't know her name yet. But I could already tell this wasn't about money. It was about power, and what she didn't realize was that she had just stepped onto land she didn't control, because this time, the one standing on the other side of that gate was me. But let me start at the beginning. Before we dive in, let me know where you're listening from today. Morning started the way I liked it, quiet, steady, and honest. Birds were cutting through the mist that hung over the fields, and the old mansion behind me looked alive again. Every piece of stone, every restored window frame was a reminder of months spent bringing history back to life. I was sipping my coffee, watching sunlight climb up the porch rails, when the sound of tires on gravel broke the calm. A woman stepped out of a silver SUV like she was stepping onto a stage. Sunglasses, clipboard, posture, the kind of confidence that's learned, not earned. She didn't smile. She didn't introduce herself. She just looked straight at me and said, "You've got 24 hours to pay your HOA dues or we'll have this property demolished." I actually laughed. "You must be joking," I said. "There's no HOA here. This land's been private for 100 years. But she didn't laugh. Her lips curved into that stiff, practiced smirk. "There is now," she said, waving a thick stack of papers. "The whole area is under new management, including your mansion." Before I could respond, a pickup truck pulled up behind her. Dust rose in the morning light as a man in uniform stepped out. Boots hit the ground heavy. His hand rested near his belt like he was waiting for trouble. "Sir, we've had a report you're refusing to comply with HOA orders," he said, voice cold and rehearsed. Something felt off. The badge on his chest didn't match the county design, and his uniform didn't carry the right insignia. Still, I kept my tone calm. "Comply with what? A woman who just showed up claiming to own my property?" Karen, that's what she called herself, folded her arms. "You're trespassing on HOA-controlled land. We have the right to enforce compliance." The so-called sheriff nodded slightly, already taking her side. "You got proof of ownership?" he asked. I turned, pointing toward the brass plaque I'd polished myself. "Registered historical property, 1922. That enough?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Karen's smirk faltered just for a moment. "That means nothing under our new jurisdiction," she snapped. That word, jurisdiction, stuck with me. I've dealt with enough bureaucrats to know how real authority sounds. This wasn't it. Her papers looked wrong. The county seal was blurry, the font mismatched, and the date on the letterhead was 2 years old. "Nice try," I said, glancing up at the sheriff. "You work for her?" He stiffened. "Watch your tone," I smiled a little. "I will. Once I see your badge up close." That's when I decided to stop playing defense. I stepped back toward the mansion, pretending to look for my documents. The cameras I'd installed around the porch blinked silently to life. Motion sensors, facial recognition, full audio, all streaming straight to the cloud. Inside, my phone buzzed. A message from my brother. "You were right. That HOA company doesn't exist. Not in any record." My pulse slowed. The pieces clicked together. They weren't here to collect dues. They were here to steal something bigger and control. I walked back out, calm as ever. "All right," I said. "If you're legitimate, you won't mind me filming this interaction for county records." Karen's smile twitched. "That won't be necessary." "Sure it will," I replied, holding my phone steady. "Especially since your official notice was printed on copy paper." The sheriff took a step forward, voice rising. "You can either pay now or face legal action. HOA dues and penalties, $42,000. I almost laughed. $42,000? For what? We've got 3 houses on a dirt road." "That's the law here," she said. I leaned on the doorframe and looked her straight in the eyes. No, I am the law here. She blinked, caught off guard. You should have done your homework, I continued. This property's under a state preservation trust. No private association can touch it. Every action against it goes through the state, not your fake HOA. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Karen's confidence cracked. I pointed toward the red light blinking on my porch camera. And just so you know, this whole encounter is being recorded and streamed live to my attorney. That's when everything changed. Karen gave the sheriff a look. A small, nervous flicker of the eyes that said more than words ever could. The sheriff shifted his weight, his hand hovering just close enough to his holster to make a point. I didn't move. 10 seconds, I said quietly, to tell me who you really work for. Then, from the road behind them, a black SUV rolled up fast. No plates, tinted windows. The sheriff turned sharply, muttering something under his breath. Karen's face went pale. We need to go, she said quickly. But before they could move, the SUV stopped, and a calm voice called out, "Ma'am, step away from the homeowner. You're under investigation for property fraud." The real sheriff had arrived. He stepped out tall, steady, every movement radiating authority. The fake officer's face drained of color. The air turned heavy. Even the birds went silent. "Sheriff Dalton, County Enforcement," the man said, flashing his real badge. "Mind explaining what's going on here?" Karen tried to speak first. "Officer, thank God you're here." "This man—" "Stop!" Dalton cut her off. "We've been tracking you for weeks." "I know exactly who you are." Her mask cracked. "I'm the HOA president." "No," Dalton said, pulling a file from under his arm. "You're the same woman who's been creating fake HOAs to extort homeowners across 3 counties. And this man next to you?" He pointed at the fake sheriff. "Your boyfriend." "Not law enforcement." Karen's mouth fell open. The fake sheriff clenched his fists. Dalton turned his tablet around, showing clear footage. Her and her partner placing fake HOA signs, stamping fake notices, even posing in counterfeit uniforms. Karen whispered weakly. "That's not me." I folded my arms, voice calm. "You picked the wrong house, Karen." Her eyes burned. "You set me up." "Set you up?" I said. "You broke into my land and tried to scare me. I just let you dig your own hole." Dalton looked at me and nodded. "You did good calling it in. We've been waiting for a break in this case." I smiled slightly. Wasn't hard to spot. Her badge was Comic Sans. Even the deputies chuckled. Karen's glare could have cut glass, but the fight in her was gone. Still, something about her eyes and that quick glance toward the tree line told me this wasn't over. Dalton noticed it too. "Don't even think about it," he warned. But before anyone could move, an engine roared to life somewhere behind the mansion. Tires screeched. Gravel flew, Dalton cursed. "Her crew's running." Deputies rushed back to their cars, sirens blaring. I watched Karen's face twist into a cold smile. "You think it's just me?" she hissed. "You've got no idea what you've stepped into." Dalton's voice hardened. "Get inside and lock your doors." "This isn't over." I nodded once, stepping back toward the porch. The mansion loomed behind me, quiet again. But the kind of quiet that comes before a storm. Because deep down, I knew this was bigger than one fake HOA. Something else was hiding in these walls, and I was about to find out what. The sirens faded down the gravel road, leaving only the echo of tires and the sharp hum of silence. Sheriff Dalton's team had taken Karen and her fake deputy into custody, but his last words lingered in my head like a storm that refused to move on. "Lock your doors. This isn't over." The evening light dipped low, spilling gold over the mansion's old stone. It should have been a peaceful scene. Justice served, danger gone. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the story wasn't finished. I turned toward the house, my boots crunching against the gravel. That's when I saw it, the front door. Slightly open, just enough to make my pulse skip. I knew I'd locked it. A chill crept down my back. The air inside felt different, heavier, stiller, as if someone had just been there. The scent of paint and old wood lingered, but something new mixed with it. Metallic, cold, and wrong. "Scout?" I whispered, calling for my dog. No response. The floorboards creaked under my weight as I stepped inside. The lights flickered once, then steadied. I grabbed the first thing within reach, an old wrench from the restoration tools, and started up the staircase, every step deliberate, every breath slow. From somewhere above, I heard it, A faint thud. Then another. Someone was still here. I moved down the hallway toward the study, the same room where I kept the mansion's blueprints, deed records, and renovation permits. The door was cracked open. A soft light flickered inside. I tightened my grip on the wrench and pushed the door open. The man inside spun around, mask half torn, eyes wide with panic. His fake badge caught the lamplight before it fell off his chest and clattered onto the floor. He lunged toward the window. I swung the wrench instinctively, catching his arm and knocking him off balance. He stumbled backward into a bookshelf, papers scattering like leaves. "Who sent you?" I demanded. He hesitated, breath ragged. Then he muttered, "Karen doesn't work alone." My heart thudded. "What do you mean?" "They've got deeds, fake ones. Buying up abandoned properties, flipping ownership on paper. Every HOA they make is part of it. You weren't supposed to find out." Before I could press further, the rumble of engines rolled down the driveway again. Flashing red and blue lights flooded through the window. Dalton's SUV had returned. The man tried to bolt, but the door swung open hard. Deputies stormed in, tackling him at the top of the stairs. "Got him!" one shouted. Dalton entered behind them, eyes scanning the hall. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, steadying my breath. "But he wasn't here for money." Dalton gave a short nod. "Let's find out what he was after." We searched the house room by room. The deputies worked methodically, checking closets, lifting floorboards, even tapping on the walls for hollow spaces. Nothing. Then, in the basement, one of them called out, "Sheriff! Over here!" We gathered around the far wall, the only one I hadn't fully replaced during restoration. The plaster was newer, uneven, like someone had rebuilt it in a hurry. Dalton ran his hand along the surface, then gave a single nod to his deputy. "Get the crowbar." The wall cracked open with a deep groan, dust spilling into the air. Behind it was a metal box, sealed, old, and heavy. Dalton pried it open carefully. Inside were stacks of documents, rubber banded together, property titles, HOA charters, violation notices, hundreds of them. He lifted the first file. The county seal was fake. The signatures were forged. And each document bore the same header. New Horizon Neighborhood Development, the same name on Karen's fake papers. Dalton flipped through the pages, his expression hardening. "These are property deeds," he said. She and her crew were forging ownership records, then forming fake HOAs to extort real homeowners. They'd fine them, threaten demolition, then flip the land to investors. I stared at the piles of papers, the years of deception, all hidden behind the same walls I'd spent months rebuilding. "So this house," I said quietly. "It wasn't just a target. It was part of the operation." Dalton nodded. "Looks like it. They probably used it as a stash point back when it was abandoned. You restoring it brought them back, and when you didn't fall for the con, they panicked." He paused, glancing at the fake sheriff being led out in cuffs. "And they made the mistake of underestimating you." The basement felt colder suddenly. The shadows stretched long as the deputies carried the evidence out to their trucks. I followed them up the stairs, the old steps creaking like they'd been holding that secret too long. When we reached the porch, Karen was there, hands cuffed, hair disheveled, her fake confidence gone. The glow from the patrol lights cut across her face, revealing the truth beneath all that smug authority. Fear. Dalton read her the charges. Fraud, impersonation of law enforcement, attempted extortion, and criminal conspiracy. Karen didn't look at him. She looked at me. "You think this ends with me?" she said, her voice barely a whisper. "There are others. You don't understand how deep this goes." I met her stare calmly. "Maybe not," I said. "But I understand this. You're done here." Dalton gestured for his team to take her away. As the SUV doors shut, I caught one last glimpse of her face. That mixture of rage and disbelief that comes when someone realizes the game's over. The engines started, and the convoy of police vehicles rolled down the driveway, their lights fading into the night. Then silence. The mansion stood tall against the stars, its windows glowing faintly from the lights inside. For the first time since I'd moved in, it didn't feel like a project. It felt alive, almost as if it had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the truth to come out. I walked back inside, the floorboards creaking softly beneath my steps. The air felt cleaner now, lighter. I stopped in the study where the fight had started and looked at the old blueprints spread across the desk. They weren't just plans anymore, they were proof. Proof that this home, this land, had survived worse and still stood its ground. I thought back to what Karen said earlier. You've got no idea what you've stepped into. Maybe she was right. Maybe the scam ran deeper than her little crew. But standing there, surrounded by history and truth, I knew one thing. They'd picked the wrong man and the wrong house. I stepped out onto the porch as dawn began to rise, painting the sky with a quiet kind of victory. The wind carried the faint smell of earth and rain, real, honest things that didn't need permission to exist. I looked up at the flag I'd hung days earlier, fluttering in the soft breeze. The mansion glowed behind it, every brick and beam standing tall. They tried to destroy my home, I said under my breath, but in the end, this home destroyed them. And as the first light of morning spilled across the fields, I smiled, not with triumph, but with peace. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or violent. It's rebuilding something stronger than the people who tried to break it. The mansion stood as proof. Justice wasn't just served. It was built, one stone, one truth at a time.